Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbif Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14, Pro Day, National, Ligue 1, Champions Cup, Challenge Cups, towns, cities, bars, stadiums, people, fans, food, drink, everything that makes French rugby such a wonderful experience. And somebody who was partially, at least, staying true to that over the weekend was Rob, who joins me fresh off the back of a little sojourn to Lyon, I believe.
I think fresh might be overselling it slightly. It was a pretty whistle stop 24 hours in Lyon that I've just about recovered from. I felt absolutely We're recording this Tuesday morning. I felt absolutely rubbish yesterday and absolutely knackered on Sunday evening. So much so that I fell asleep within about half an hour of the Toulouse game, which, given some of the rugby on show, is quite surprising. But I woke up on my sofa at 7:30 a.m.
Wow. I mean, You are basically narcoleptic, but other than that, we'll let it slide. In terms of what's done you, just the butter, Genepi, Chartreuse, what's been the Achilles heel this time?
No, I think it was just trying to squeeze it, just hectic, just trying to squeeze in as much as possible. So, it was a pretty early start on Saturday morning. And then because our flight was kind of midday back from Lyon. So it was quite an early start on Sunday morning to try and make the most of it, which, to be fair, we had absolutely glorious weather, like the perfect Sunday weather of like bright sunshine. And it wasn't as windy as it was the day before. And just a little saunter down the river, coffee, this riverside market, all of the things you expect to see, like loads of fruit and veg, rotisseries, bakeries, flowers, white asparagus the size of your forearm, like
wholesome fare.
Yeah, it was. That was actually the kind of perfect Sunday morning. But we had got up at 8, having had pretty heavy evening, trying to squeeze in as many wine bars as possible. But yeah,
very good.
Basically, I think we were in central Lyon for 23 hours.
It's a little last minute cheap flight that you couldn't turn down.
Anyone thinks I'm an absolute baller.
We paid over.
Yeah, we paid £2 for our flights, thanks to BA Avios companion voucher, etc., which was due to expire. I think it was due to expire on Thursday. So somehow managed to squeeze that in. And Lyon was basically the only place that was. It was almost like BA wanted me to go to Lyon. Like there was pretty much nowhere else on offer. So
very good.
I think we were the only people on both flights not skiing as well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
very good. I mean, any like stance? We've obviously been to Lyon a couple of times, but both have been part of rugby trips, and both have been quite whistle stoppy in nature. So good to hear that kind of drop in, drop out has continued. Any like one new suggestion from this time? I assume obviously you didn't sneak off to Stade de Gerland for Lyon Van.
She couldn't be tempted. No, we did see quite a few Van fans in the market, which when you look at, there's a big map of kind of where all the produce comes from in the Halle de Poule Bocuse. And when you look at it on a map, Van to Lyon is a long, long old way. So fair play to the Bretons for travelling there. But no, we didn't sneak off. I'd say the highlight was a place called Vivant, Vivants, Bar Vivants, which was quite a similar vibe to the place we love in Toulouse, Nabucodonosor, but it also did craft beer and was just a cool bloke behind the bar, like buttons down to halfway, long hair, carpent's hat. He looked like if Captain Jack Sparrow was French and grew up as an artisan winemaker in Lyon. I think that's basically what he would end up looking like. And the menu said, we kind of had a few snacks, and it said the saucisson was the best saucisson of your life. And I obviously, when you see that, oh yeah, go on then. And genuinely think it might have been. It was absolutely phenomenal. But the wine
fantastic.
there was delicious as well. Really, and like played good tunes. And then all of a sudden the music stopped, and it was kind of like, oh, why is this? It now feels really quiet. But yeah, it was a really cool bar. Loved it.
Excellent. Oh, glad to hear. I was not quite in such plush surrounds, but I did tick off the rugby element of Rosbif.
Yeah, Queen.
Whatever they call it, the showdown at Tottenham Stadium to watch Saracens Harlequins.
How was it?
The game itself was a really interesting finish, kind of excellent comeback from Quins, who were blown away a bit in the first 20 and held in really well. Main thing is the stadium is pretty extraordinary. It's absolutely
cool, isn't it?
It's enormous, steep. Reminded me a little bit, if talking sort of French rugby parlance, of this kind of Stade Velodrome, the kind of high angled sides, and really good view down onto the pitch. But would certainly go back and maybe think I was maybe a bit of an idiot not to go to the Champions Cup or Challenge Cup finals last year, given they were both there. But alas, we live and learn.
How was because obviously they made a big thing of it, calling it the showdown. Any decent après, any decent kind of fan engagement stuff?
Oh, there was loads of fan engagement before. They had a few, loads of stuff going on around the ground, little rugby games, lots of pyros and stuff pre-game, which I'm still always skeptical of in the daytime. It would have looked unbelievable if it was dark, but just feels like a bit of a smoky mess otherwise. But yeah, they did it really well. It was
do they have decent to do it during the daytime because it's in Tottenham?
I don't know, possibly. I don't think
alienating our northeast London listeners there.
Yeah, it's a it's a lively spot, isn't it, Tottenham? Yeah, pretty good fun all round. Good day out for all the family, or all of I think it was Thurrock Rugby Club, some old boys who were sat in front of us who'd probably met quite early, judging by how they were getting on, but they're having a good time of it nonetheless, and that's obviously all that matters. That's Premiership done, little trip to Lyon done. Should we get into the meet, the top 14? Just before we do, I know we're going to mention there was some pretty awful news, wasn't there, unfortunately, that came out of France last week. Young, I think 15-year-old Nicolas Haddad, playing for a club in Corsica, who sadly passed away, I think, after an incident on the pitch. And he was affiliated, I think he was part of the Toulon setup, wasn't he? Yeah. Like Toulon Academy. So yeah, really nice tribute to him before the game at the Mile on Saturday night. But yeah, pretty awful news, and yeah, not much more to say. Unfortunately,
he had a cardiac arrest after a tackle. Like that is, I dread to think like what actually happened there, but it's just quite chilling, really, isn't it?
Very sad. Yeah, and Toulon, I think, obviously, got a lot of communications in the week and what have you, but for their victory over Perpignan, tribute before the game, minutes applause and so on, which is nice little touch. As was Jean-Baptiste Gros running out for his 100th appearance for Toulon, man of the moment. I think he was also, if I'm not mistaken, he was voted for, or when I looked yesterday where they do the top 14 player of the round that you vote for on X, he was 70% of the vote.
I couldn't believe that. I was livid.
Such is the impact him and his glorious suaveness have had on the French rugby community over the Six Nations. His star is very high at the moment. So
I'm so skeptical of those fan votes in France. Like it's all done on who's got the biggest. Which it's kind of like when they do match that, like you can vote for goal of the month on Match of the Day, and like Liverpool are always like disproportionately highly voted. Like it's kind of whoever's got the most fans that are watching or engaging with it. Like, just seemed to completely distort the vote. But yeah, he did chew up the USAP scrum, to be fair to him.
Well, I say big, good win for Toulon, who obviously secure their spot in that top three, which is cutting even further adrift. And then part of that kind of cohort is obviously Toulouse Bordeaux, which you said you eventually watched back in, looking slightly less jaded.
The only one more thing on Toulon v USAP was, have you seen the piece of footballing skill from Baptiste Serin?
No, I haven't.
It's genuinely like Ronaldinho at his finest. It's kind of that little in and out. It genuinely, the ball is on the floor and it's like a one-on-one in football, and he just knocks it one way, knocks it back the other, and round the defender. It's properly like within like a meter. Like, it's not like a big fly hack. It's like a proper close-knit control. It's phenomenal.
I saw Jalabert did something with off the deck as well, didn't he, in the Toulouse game, which is quite cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, how do you want to go about the Toulouse Bordeaux game? I guess on paper, a kind of 8-point win for Bordeaux is a pretty good result. If you looked at it purely as kind of a game against Toulouse, they've done the double for the first time ever, I think, over Toulouse.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, you take an 8-point win, but there's obviously a bit more to that. Should we start with the team selections then?
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got Bordeaux at absolute full click, bar Mo Afana, who has replaced Mo Afana, sorry.
Yeah, Mo Afana, albeit that Rohan Jansi van Rensburg was probably the best player on the pitch across the 80 minutes.
He has been wildly good for them this year. Like,
he's not the quickest, but he's
just banged people so much.
Yeah.
And then Toulouse kind of they rested everyone who played in the Six Nations, right? So including Kinghorn, Capwatt. So yeah,
I think they also rested Paul Grau because he wasn't on the injury list and he was there in kit with a bib on. So I think he was fit, and I think they were basically resting anyone that they needed to protect, because why does Roman Ntamack need to be rested? He's only played 3 games in 7 weeks or whatever, 8 weeks. So, I think they're just protecting. It'd be interesting to see what they go for against Mo, because the Champions Cup is clearly what they're aiming for. I think Grau makes sense because they have lost Dupont, and I think the way that Saito played, I think Grau is going to be the number one, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I think my kind of 1 minute review is that really excited before the game, not that enthused when I saw the team selections, albeit we know how good that sort of Toulouse second string, and at points arguably they appear to play with more kind of abandon when they've got that kind of youth factor in there. And then watched most of, if not all of, the first half and was like, this is basically a bit of a waste of time. And I stopped watching after there was that big raft of replacements on about 45 minutes for both sides. And then when I saw the final result,
which was the turning point in the game, basically.
Which was the turning point in the game, perhaps unsurprisingly with hindsight. But I think my feeling at the end was that, and then having watched a few of the highlights back, was obviously a couple of the guys on the Toulouse bench were magnificent. Castro Ferreira, who I know you've been singing his song for months, years now. He was awesome. As I think Brennan, Malachi Hawks, who's the prop come hooker, was wicked. But my overwhelming feeling was that I felt actually Toulouse probably, when you get blown away like that, probably don't deserve a losing bonus point, as good as that kind of second half comeback was. So yeah, maybe felt like just desserts, but I don't know. They've got such quality.
Yeah,
going so deep. It's like you kind of run out of words to say, really.
You're right on the team selections and being slightly underwhelmed when you see them head to head. I think with the Toulouse second string, it is okay. Well, which player that I don't know much about is going to kind of blow me away this week, sort of thing.
Yeah,
I think you're dead right. The guys that impressed off the bench, I had those first 2 that you named. I thought, conscious that I don't want to. It really annoys me when podcasts talk about the same person over and over again. So if you're new, we love Matheus Castro Ferreira. If you have been listening for the last year, apologies for banging on again about how good Matheus Castro Ferreira is. He was brilliant, but it's there's only you can get repetitive, but like when he is has that impact off the bench, you kind of can't not talk about him. I thought Brennan was great, bit of physicality, bit of leadership. I think it's quite an interesting setup, really. Like they've got a kind of group of leaders who kind of set some standards. I'd say Malia is just a fantastic rugby player. And another news flash for you is that Mathis Lebel is really good at rugby. Like he's not, I think with Lebel, like you can be mistaken for he's just a flyer because a lot of his tries are just from him being really quick and a brilliant finisher. But I think his all-round skills are really good. Like he's good under the high ball, he's good on kick chase, he's good at kicking, like for a winger anyway, especially compared to like other rapid wingers. He's pretty good defensively. And he actually steps up in these games quite a lot. I think Willis was really quiet. That was odd. They kind of couldn't get him into the game at all. We got a little bit of Aki when he came back on, and we saw he not played that much rugby, Peter Aki. But yeah, and then I think when you've got the physicality up front of Castro Ferreira, Brennan, and then some of the guys off the bench like Hawks, Bertrand, they've got enough leadership that the kind of exuberance of youth from the kind of physical forwards that they're bringing in, it kind of works. Like it's, I think we saw like just how well it works because on paper there's, especially when in that second half, because yes, Bordeaux made a load of changes, but the guys they're bringing on are like Johnny Gray, who's got like 80 caps for Scotland, and Joey Carberry, and Arthur Etienne, who was brilliant to be fair. I think he's got a lot of praise over the last few weeks, and he's got a lot of praise in this game. But I think the fact that it started to unravel so much for Bordeaux is a little bit of an indictment on our man Maxime Lucu. I think if you are that sort of player, and he didn't really do it until about 70 minutes. You just needed him to put a foot on it and just get it down the other end and just take the sting out of it. You'd expect a Petit General like that with that experience, who is there so like clearly their kind of charismatic leader and their talisman, just like grab the game by the balls. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed in that. But they were electric first half, and Jalibert was magnifique. He was, he's just a gorgeous rugby player to watch, isn't it? I think he's just like so quick, ball in two hands. I think that's the thing. He has that. Yeah. It makes him such a, like every time he gets the ball, he is a threat because you don't know whether he's going to run or pass. And he's so quick, ball in two hands, that he can still hurt you if he's running and he's decided not to pass. He was sublime in that first 40 minutes. Yeah. Absolutely sublime.
Our online pal, Hugh, clipped up quite a nice little montage of that first half. And what I also quite enjoyed about Jalibert watching that back, it was everything. It was like passing, kicking. He was taking high balls. He was busting tackles. He was like...
I think there was a Crash Ball 10 clip in there, wasn't there?
Yeah. He's just decided to like truck one up, head down. Yeah, it was hilarious. No, he was brilliant. I think on the Lucu point, and this was probably my closing thing on the game, we've seen a little bit over the last last 12 months, as phenomenal as Bordeaux are, there is a bit of I'm a little bit loath to say like softness, because I think that's a bit unfair on how good fragility. Some of those players are. But there's a bit of a fragility, there's a bit of like naivety. And we saw that in the game they lost to Harlequins in the Champions Cup. We saw that against Lyon, the game we were at the Chaban Delmas, where they, having kind of not played that well, were there, and then just some of the decision making at the end was really poor. And obviously they got blown away by Toulouse in the final last year. That wasn't fragile. That was just a kind of juggernaut of a performance. But there's a little bit of me that thinks, is a kind of comeback like this, is it just a slightly timely reminder? Is it almost like the little jolt they need to make sure that it doesn't happen in a Champions Cup game or in a semi-final or whatever? Maybe it's not, because it's the same set of players, and maybe that's just the kind of beautiful imperfection of that Bordeaux team. But there's part of me that thinks maybe it might just, will the man Maxime be a little bit more aware to it because it's happened this time? I don't know, but one to ponder.
One on that, like I was looking at some of the names on the still on the pitch, when like they've got an international 10 in Carberry, they've got their man captain, but like how many caps has Penaud got? And he's still just like, he's not a kind of like, even like, to be fair to him, I think the best comparison for Penaud is someone like Johnny May. Like Johnny May towards the end of his England career, like was actually kind of quite mature, and you could be trusted a little bit more to like do some mature things. But I think Penno is still so far away from that, which is as good a player he is. Like, come on, mate, just kind of, can we have a bit of experience and, you know, use your skills in a kind of, sensible way somehow.
Never.
I think there was kind of a wry smile towards the end, or as Jalibert knocked over the 3 to take it back out to 8 points, kind of a wry smile from Ugo Moller on the sideline. I think that's kind of like we still got them. We've still got the mental edge on them, was kind of my fear. I think that was the kind of overriding sense coming out of it for me was, Bordeaux won, great, 4 points, but Toulouse are there going like, well, we denied you a bonus point with our kids and you're still pretty fragile and we've still got something over you. So see you in the final for another 50-point victory sort of thing. It kind of felt a little bit like that.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Great game.
Alrighty. Yeah, it was good fun.
Despite the fact I fell asleep inside half an hour.
The game of the weekend, surely, Rob, we got to talk about it. It's Montpellier, Simmonds'ico, which we pondered the week before whether or not it would have the same impact as last year. Would the Simmons uncle be there in his half and half shirt? Well, it turns out that the best part of 100 folk from Devon went to this game, including what I could see, I think about 20 of them in Teignmouth rugby kit.
Yeah.
20 of them in replicas of said half and half shirts.
The half and half, which I think has in the middle it has a crest of something else, which I assume is the Teignmouth rugby crest, like on the halfway line, on the sternum.
Absolutely incredible.
I wouldn't know where they're getting them. They're amazing.
Yeah,
like, how have they commissioned them?
It's a serious.
I thought the original was like a kind of like he's literally just sewn it together, but clearly
definitely. Not. No, it was absolutely amazing. And then Sam Simmonds started at 8 as well. So we had the full Simmonds'ico, and I must admit I've only seen highlights, but it didn't disappoint, certainly from a drama perspective. And as a Po fan, you must be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, we were kind of having a bit of a time out back at the hotel, and I kind of used that time to be monitoring the scores. I've decided live sport is the best way to follow it live. I think of all the apps and sites I've got, that seems to be the most accurate, albeit the time is not always the most reliable, but the actual sequence of events seems to be the most accurate. And every time I kept refreshing, it felt like the score changed and swung in a different direction, and then Montpellier stretched out a lead. It's like, oh no, we've thrown it away, and then we clawed it back, and then Boutier got a penalty, which I assume was from miles away. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's the one right at the end.
Yeah,
it's like touchline miles out, pretty much. It's class.
And then the next refresh, Po 40, Montpellier 38. Fist pumping. I didn't even see that it was a drop goal. I just saw Joe Simmonds, and then I kind of saw on Instagram later that it was a drop goal. And what I like about that is the drop goal. I'm having watched it. So Dan Robson said he's watched it 35 times, and that was on like Sunday evening. So I don't think how many he's watched it since. But the drop goal at the end from Joe Simmonds. What I like about that is one of the leading chargers on the charge down is Sam Simmonds, and as Joe Simmonds is like wheeling away, the guy like right next to him from Montpellier is his brother, who looks absolutely livid. It's amazing. And then you've got the blokes in the half and half shirts like cheering. It's like, well, that's what? Oh, so they all prefer Joe, do they?
Yeah, the scene's absolutely incredible at the end, because one, you've got obviously Simmonds getting mobbed, Joe Simmonds getting mobbed. You've got Sam Simmonds looking absolutely livid. The drop goal itself is pretty good. It's a little bit of a wobbler, and I reckon it's not fading. Pretty, it's effective. It's fading towards Sam Simmonds. So if there was a charge down, it's probably him like face butting it back towards the halfway line, which is obviously an eventuality for another day.
Do you reckon the Simmonds clan would have been cheering then? If Sam Simmonds had done the charge down, are they cheering?
Surely. I think if he's like,
I think being in Po helps. Yeah.
But the thing that really made me laugh about this is it cuts to the stands, and it's, brilliant scenes, like the Bernays flags are flying. It's just class. But the slight fallibility, as beautiful a stadium as it is, the Stade de Hameau does have the one end where there is nothing behind it. And that's obviously where the drop goal is. So there is one person who's clearly either leaving the ground early, coming back from the loo, So whilst you think of the Johnny Wilkinson drop goal, 0-3, the whole, you've got half that stand rising in unison. This one, there's just one guy going absolutely mad behind the post. It's
Oh,
class. And not just a good because it puts them in, I think, seventh but a pretty important win given they've got a pretty rough run of fixtures, potentially at least coming up.
Toulouse away, followed by Bordeaux at home, yeah, which I will hopefully be at. But it was a pretty, that was kind of why I was so tense, like following the scores on Saturday, because I knew how important getting a win here was going to be, especially when we're like in the game. Like, had it been like Montpellier run away to a 20-point lead, it's like, okay, well, fine. Like we obviously didn't turn up, but yeah, we've kind of been like the Stade Francais away game. Like we played really well and ultimately lost, which never know how costly that could be. But I didn't want that to happen again. It's good. It was a good day out for the Rosbifs generally.
Yeah.
Billy V scored a try. Sam Simmonds set up a try for Ngandebe. Robson set up a try for Aaron Grandidier. Grandidier himself kind of played a key role in the leader. Like he blocked the ball and then ran down the right to set up or to get the field position for the Browbury try, which was from a Simmonds crossfield kick. Absolutely livid that's not in the top 5 tries of the week. Like, some of them were rubbish, and like that was actually sick. But yeah, and Dan Robson, I think, made the Midi Olympique team of the week. Joe Simmonds obviously did. Yeah, so nice to see the Rosbifs. I think also quite key in this game, I think Joe Simmonds was 100% off the tee. Or he certainly kicked all the conversions, whereas I think Montpellier, I think Collie missed one and Royce missed one in the first half, I think.
Yeah.
I was also, my poor girlfriend had to sit through the odd random rugby chat. I was explaining the Montpellier recruitment situation to her, and she was absolutely aghast at some of the stories that were coming out.
Yeah.
I did just kind of say, like, but Billy Vanapola, he's English. He's technically a criminal, but he got tasered by two tasers, and he's just a bit of a loose bloke. I think that was his issue. And she's like, oh,
nothing too
right,
much.
okay.
Yeah. Gentle stuff. Yeah, fantastic win for Poe. In that kind of, well, I guess middle-ish section, Bayonne thought might do a job at Stade, but they hung in there despite some indiscipline as ever. But
7 yellow cards in the game. That is remarkable. I think there were 3 for Stade Francais in like the last 15 minutes or something. It's just remarkable. But that was a full noise Bayonne side.
Yeah.
Stade Francais had 3 within the space of 4 minutes near the end.
Some going.
And Bayonne were only able to score 1 try in that without.
So the last two is that the last 2 home games? They did the same against La Rochelle where they imploded at the end and somehow scrambled the ball off the pitch with 13 men.
Yeah,
staring
they finished
down
with
the barrel.
12 at that point, didn't they?
It was 12v14. That's what it was at the end of that game.
Have they now overtaken Racing as the most indisciplined side? I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd have thought so.
But Stade Francais, so we framed last week as kind of 3 sections, Stade Francais and 11th being the top of the bottom section. And because there was a gap, but they are now 3 points off Montpellier, who they play next week. So that bit of the table could get closed up by next week. That said, it is in Montpellier, and Stade Francais have got 1 bonus point all season away from home. So maybe it will still be quite a sizable gap.
Maybe.
Or maybe the other side will have closed the gap, perhaps. The other Parisian side, who are themselves only 4 points off Montpellier, maybe they will help close the gap. Your boys, Rich, or not your boys.
After their big win down in the Auvergne. Yeah, Racing. Fantastic result. Predicted by yours truly. Just had a feel
you
for
had a
this
good
one.
week.
Yeah, I did have quite a good week, actually.
If your boys are down.
The only one I got wrong was Cass winning at La Rochelle, which was obviously a draw, which we'll go into in a moment. But yeah, Racing, a hell of a result, really, all things considered. They looked a little bit light. They obviously had, well, I tell you, light. They had a very good bench, which you did flag the week before.
I think this game was all about, the headline was the return of the kind of English fly half / inside centre who has attracted many a headline this season and will be forever linked to the previous regime for whatever reason, inextricably linked to the previous head coach for forevermore. So what did you think of the performance of Dan Lancaster?
Well, it's actually,
The joke
I'm
of
pretty,
like,
pretty
hyping
happy.
it up, framing it as this is going to be Owen Farrell, and actually we're talking about Dan. Like, that's the gift that keeps on giving this season, isn't it? Just,
Yeah, it's not something I expected to be happening much, but
he played
yeah,
well.
he was great, and he was. I actually was he not? I think he was in one of the teams of the week at 10.
Oh, was
I
he?
think I think he was he not the Midi Olympique
Nah,
over
surely it was
Simmons?
Simmons.
No, I think it was Simmons. I'm fairly sorry. I think it was Dan Lancaster. So I saw it and was like, "Ooh, that's yeah." Rob will have something to say about that, but yeah, I actually think mainly fair play to him because as much as we and many others have joked and jested this year about the recruitment itself, the position he found himself in, which has obviously been not helped by the fact Farrell's been injured. So he's kind of gone from this second playmaker position to suddenly front and centre of one of the most famous clubs in France, having been on the bench for Ealing. That must start to take its toll after a little while, and it's probably quite hard to shut that out. But it turns out all he
Yeah.
needed was his dad to bugger off, and he's tearing it up. So it's like, in kids' football, you need to get the parents away from the sidelines and let them flourish. So yeah,
You are
really,
right,
I mean,
Matt. The Rugby Rama Midi Olympique team of the week had Dan Lancaster at 10, Luca at 9.
there you go. But yeah, great win for Racing, which does
I thought it
cut.
was. Have you watched this game?
I watched the sort of longish highlights. It was a
It was
bit, well, as many places were squalid conditions in quite a
yeah.
few spots in
I
France.
think you did well to watch the lengthy highlights because it was not a thing of great beauty. There's a lot of kicking from our man Dan Lancaster and Gibert at 9, and I think generally Racing very much got the rubber green from the referee. The first half felt like an endless stream of penalties for Clermont inside the 22 that they then kicked to the corner and didn't quite convert
Mm.
to a rolling to a try. They could have kicked some goals themselves and they might have won that game, but there was only one yellow card for Racing in the whole game, which, given the amount of penalties that they conceded inside their own half and certainly inside their own 22, I think was pretty weak refereeing, as was the scrummaging at the end, which must have been a million scrum resets, with one of the more obvious scrum penalties when Demba Bamba is bolt upright facing inwards at his own hooker and Akaladze is he's genuinely perpendicular to Akaladze facing the referee, and Akaladze is driving dead straight. And how that is not a scrum penalty 30 metres out in front of the sticks is beyond me. But that said, once the final scrum that they did play away from, it gets to the back and the refs like play, and then they kind of keep it at the back for a bit. It suddenly starts marching forward, and I think Demba Bamba takes to the air as well. But the refs just decide he's not going to give anything at that point. And
First
from
game of the
that
season,
point,
wasn't it, for Bamba?
yeah, debut.
Yeah.
But to be fair, from that point, they defended very well, and Clermont couldn't get anywhere, and actually Racing drove back. Racing's defense was pretty good all game, but I think an inexperienced and naive ref that kind of could have penalised them much more.
Fair enough. Clermont, a little bit of a slide, as we've said it before, La Rochelle.
Defeats in a row, isn't it?
Yeah. La Rochelle now, who drew at home to Castres, didn't score a point for the best part of an hour and 10 minutes, I think. They scored after the 12th minute. Must say, with my Castres hat on, fairly happy with 2 points there. I think that's probably not the worst. But Rob, I know O'Gara feels like he's in a bit of a pickle, shall we say, that it seems to be getting deeper and deeper.
It's quite amusing, isn't it? Like, from the outside, like, he's gone. Again, another thing that my girlfriend had to sit through was me explaining the Ronan O'Gara situation of, a few weeks ago, he was saying, Wales is below me, effectively. I'm going to get an international job.
Yeah.
With the greatest respect, I'd want something bigger than one of the most historic nations in rugby. And yet he is now presiding over a team that has a lot of star names that is just bad. They're not very good at the moment. The big headline news was that back row of Jegu, Boudon, and Aldrit, which is a hell of a back row. And it's, Castres are a very good team. Castres full noise, fair enough. And it wasn't great conditions, but he's just watching. He must be watching his stock fall in front of his eyes. Who would employ him now? He was kind of. It's not that long ago we were saying let's bring him in for if Fabien Galtier kind of
Well,
goes. And it's just,
I think,
is he in danger of losing his job at La Rochelle, do you think?
probably, yeah. I think I think he'll get till the end of this season, won't he, regardless of what happens. But I think very possibly. It's tricky. I don't think it's a case of who would employ him, but it's kind of, I guess, the first wobble he's had, and it's gone from a wobble to a bit of a free fall, isn't it? And it doesn't seem to be, and it's not one of those where you're like, oh, they've been a bit unlucky here and there. They've
actually
really
been quite lucky,
disconnected,
if anything.
Yeah, well, 100%. Yeah, I mean, there's two home games in particular, Clermont and Toulouse, which they should have lost, and frankly were kind of lucky to come out on the right side of a couple of ropey decisions. And Toulouse is now we know that their espoirs are absolutely amazing, but that would have been quite a result. So yeah, he's definitely he's in a bit of a patch. And I think when coaches are as kind of combative as someone like Ronan O'Gara, there's not a huge amount of sympathy as well when things start to go wrong. So be interesting.
I do really
to see
like
what
him
happens.
though. I do I do think I'm absolutely fascinated by him, and when he speaks, I'm absolutely hooked by whatever he says. I don't know how much of this is him. Like, I don't know. Part of me wants to be like, oh, it's very easy that you could blame everything else other than him. And also it's very easy to blame it all entirely on him. So yeah, I don't know, because I feel like he had so much credit. He had so much credit in the bank for good reason. Like, his kind of whole CV was really good. It's not just the kind of last few years with La Rochelle and Champions Cup. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised if he's gone at the end of the season though, as good as he has been at La Rochelle. Yeah, I think he's there. I think they've got to pin a lot now on the Champions Cup. I'll be amazed if they win it. Like, as good as that squad is, when they turn up, it's a hell of an ask to beat. Well, they've already lost to Leinster at home, and to beat Toulouse and Bordeaux, I just don't think they're quite there.
Completely agree. Okay, looking ahead then to this weekend, there's one fixture that stands out, and so we're very fortunate, literally, because having tried multiple times and failed, managed to get a ticket to Brittany, to Vannes. We're heading for a little kind of smash and grab across the channel to see Vannes beat Perpignan, which was something, was a little bit bucket listy anyway. Supposedly a fabulous place to watch rugby. Looks like quite an incredible city and ground, and general approach and fervour to the game of rugby there. But the fact it's 14th to be 13th and it's going to be problematic for whoever loses makes it mouth-watering. So I'm very excited.
In football parlance, that is a 6-pointer, isn't it? Because they both lost last weekend, and because Racing and Stade both won this weekend. And I think Racing have got a good chance of winning this weekend at home to Bordeaux, because I think Bordeaux won't be that bothered by, I think they'll be more focused on the Champions Cup the following week.
Well, Racing been awful at home, haven't they?
Yeah. But I think they'll have, look at that bench that they unloaded. They unloaded like all 8 in one go. I don't think I've ever seen that, especially with a 5-3, the now traditional 5-3. But they get to unload all 8 at one time, and the guys they're bringing on, like Woki, Fiku, Farrell,
Talfafanua.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to see just generally, USAP, and I think quite a few that USAP team against Toulon was one of the weakest teams by a top 14 side that's been in the top 14 for a while. So, not a newly promoted side. I think that's one of the weakest top 14 sides I can remember seeing.
They actually did all right for the first.
Yeah, they did all right. They did all right. The scrum got absolutely minced. So I wonder if Brooks was rested, because I think he was on the injury list.
I think they're surely eyeing up the game at Vannes now.
It's got to be, yeah. That's a long old way. Like, we were talking about how far the Vannes fans have gone to Lyon. That's even further. That is 2 opposite ends of the country, pretty much.
Yeah, trek.
Yeah, that is a long old way. Any other games that grab your fancy?
I think the late one, Cass, Toulon, obviously it's Cass, but under lights, Toulon looking really good and have formed away from home as well. They might have an eye on the Champions Cup the next week, given how secure you think they are in that 3rd place. Whereas for Cass, as everyone else does in that mix, they want to make the barrage, need to win those home games, don't they? So
I think,
look at that. And it's the late kickoff.
And I think we will finally see the return
Yeah.
of one of the greats of the game. I think he will play next week because I think they'll rest quite a few players in the
Yeah.
Champions Cup, and I think Nonu will play, which would be really cool.
Definitely.
It's what we're all waiting for. Just one thing on Van Perpignan, I did a bit of digging, and it's interesting to highlight the fate of the sides since COVID that have finished bottom of the top 14. So this is quite key for this game because whoever loses it will be bottom and will be in that 14th place. Since COVID, no bottom place side has come back up, assuming that, I mean, Oyonnax are miles off at the moment. They're still like 8 points off the barrage. But Agen 2021, I mean, they were long bottom by that point, but they've not come back up. Biarritz the following year haven't really got close to coming back up. They've been closer to going down than coming back up, as have Agen. Brive the year before, they kind of finished about 6th last year, didn't they? They kind of just about got their act together towards the end of the season, but they've obviously not come back up yet, and they may still not come back up. And then Oyonnax have been at various points this season in the relegation slots of Pro D2 themselves. So the omens for the side finishing bottom are not good. It's a little bit different for the 13th place side because actually quite a few, well, Perpignan themselves, I think the last 3 13th place sides have all won the access match, 2 of which were Perpignan. So yeah, quite a lot of onus on that bottom place, or not being in that bottom place. So that is the key focus for this weekend. But that leads us on nicely to the best league in the world.
Go on, take us away, Rob. Pro D2. So we get Instagram notifications, and it's like so and so liked your reel, and more often than not, it's something we did absolutely ages ago, which is mainly Rob describing in some sort of good, clear detail as to why he loves Pro D2. But for any new listeners, Rob, maybe do you want to, given we've had a bit of a hiatus as well, haven't we? Do you want to
3 weeks
take us
off
through 3 weeks?
Pro D2 is like, it's a caricature of itself, isn't it? It's just because people think of like French rugby, and this is, they think of like fights and cards and jouet and drama and dodgy refs and home fan support and all the music and the fans being raucous and everything like that. And Pro D2 is that like dialed up to the max, isn't it? And this season it's just been what has added an element of wild unpredictability that defies logic every week. Like we do these predictions, and there's one each week where I think, well, that's never going to happen. Therefore, I'm going to predict that because that's where we're at with Pro D2. It's like, what is the most logic defying result of this league? Okay, that probably will happen. It's remarkable this season. And the fact that it always used to be like home wins, like all home wins, that was the stereotype. And now it's 1 week it will be home wins, and then it's the next week it's 3 away wins and a draw. It's just, yeah. How would you sum up the season so far, Rich?
Well, I'd say largely what you've said there. You've got all of your kind of cliches and stereotypes, but I think there's far greater strength in depth across a lot of the squads, and it's meant that it's been a slightly more, dare I say, maybe slightly more interesting league than it has been in the past. Like genuinely, most teams capable of beating one another. Far more unexpected results this season than I can remember last year. I mean, obviously in a league that long and that diverse, it's going to throw up a few shocks now and then, but it's been sort of, I think the volume of away wins is probably over twofold what it was last year with 6 rounds to go. So yeah, not only has it had that that kind of wild westness that we love, but there's been some fantastic rugby as well. And I think probably at the start of the season felt that the 2 teams that would be like right front and centre of going back up were certainly, I thought, Oyonnax and Brive, and obviously Brive are up there, but they are not the premier team in Pro D2 at the moment. It's very much Grenoble. And Oyonnax have struggled and actually been on a bit of a run of late that's kind of got them back into something resembling a bit of respectability, having been staring over their shoulder with some of the teams with tiny budgets, and you kind of have to moneyball it a bit. So yeah, it's been a great season, and I've no doubt now it will get, as it's getting even more business endy, we'll see even more away games. We'll see even more sort of, there's always a sting in the tail as well, as we saw last year with Rouen. And whilst I think unfortunately Nice are probably done for, the bottom of the league in that barrage spot with Nacional is fascinating.
I think we saw this weekend in the top 14 how like squeaky it has become. That was a really squeaky set of results generally in the top 14. And I think Pro Day 2, there's 7 rounds to go. So same amount as we same amount as we had in the top 14. And I think it's so tight. Well, it's so tight in different sections. So in the same way that we had 3 different sections in the top 14 that we kind of identified, which now have been blown into the air. But Pro Day 2, it does seem like we've got a top half and a bottom half, with the top 7 all in with a shout of the barrage. Someone in that top 7 isn't going to make it. So the league works the same way as the top 14 does, in that you have a top 2 go through to the semi-finals, which is actually a home semi-final, like genuinely at home. There's the barrage, so 3rd to 6th go into what is effectively a quarter-final, with 3rd playing 6th and 4th playing 5th. And at home, those 3rd and 4th place sides, they go into the barrage, they play the semi-finals. The winner of those plays semi-finals. Semi-finals go through to the final in a neutral venue, which is the Stade Ernest Vallon. The winner of the Pro Day 2 final gets automatically promoted. The losing finalist of the Pro Day 2 final plays the access match against the 13th place side in the top 14. As of last year, down the bottom, there is also now an access match for 15th. So previously that was automatic relegation. 16th is automatic relegation. And I think looking at like we just did with the top 14, the last few 15th and 16th place sides doesn't bode well. So Valence, so 2021 or 2020, 2021, Valence and Saxby finished 15th. They are obviously now current in the league. Saxby came straight back up. Valence took a couple of seasons. But after that, 21-22, Bourg-en-Bresse and Narbonne, who narrowly missed out on the access match last year to losing against Montauban. 2022-2023, Carcassonne and Massy, who are now only just about starting to show signs that they might come back up. And last year, Montauban won the first ever access match at Narbonne, and Rouen, who are not guaranteed to come straight back up themselves. You know, I think they're 3rd in National. So similarly, Nice we think might be doing it differently. But if you are that 15th place side, having that access match, who knows which way it's going to go? But it's a little bit of jeopardy because you don't quite know, because National is now so competitive below it. You don't quite know whether you're going to come straight back up if you go down. So there's a hell of a lot riding on it. And there are about 7 teams that could end up in that 15th place. I think it's something like 4 points between Aurillac are currently in 15th on 42 points, and Dax in 10th are on 48. So there's not much to play for in that 15th. I think Nice are pretty much down. They are 20 points behind Aurillac with 7 games to go. That would be remarkable if somehow they didn't finish bottom. But yeah, so much to play for and so much riding on it, because Pro Day 2 has so much money compared to, well, it has so much money full stop, but it has the TV deals, it has that. So to drop down out of that, it actually is getting quite financially significant.
Yeah, definitely. So where do we think, obviously we've got the round 24, I think it is, coming up of 400. If you had to make a couple of calls now as to who you think might be in that 15th and perhaps at the top end, who's gonna make those like home, well, the home semi-finals or home barrage, and I suppose more importantly the kind of top 2. If you had to pin your colours to the mast, what are you thinking?
I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say Grenoble are going to be in the top 2. Grenoble are currently 10 points clear at the top. 12 points clear at the top, yeah. Second place.
Having lost last game as well, extraordinary.
I think second place will be Brive, because they play Provence at home at some point in the next few weeks. And I think that's the key one. They're the 2 teams of that top 7. They are out Grenoble, and then I think they are the 2 next best, it would seem. I think Béziers, Montauban, Saxby and Colomiers are all pretty even generally. And I think Provence and Brive they've just got a little bit more star power. You only need to look at the team sheets with some of the names. You know, you've got a couple of Lions and Test Centurions in the respective sides there. So George North and Courtney Laws, but also like a bloke that beat the All Blacks last year in Matthias Moroni, just casually filling in into the centres for Brive. I think they've just got a little bit more star power, those, and so much depth.
I think so.
Provence got loads of depth.
Yeah, agreed. I think actually
who are you going for second?
I mean, it's one of those two. I think maybe Provence, just based on just the kind of overwhelming quality across their team, and they haven't suffered too many like shock results. They haven't had too many blips, if that makes sense. Whereas Brive have had a couple of like slightly unusual wobbles and things like that. Although I'd probably agree that maybe the Brive squad is a little bit stronger. But I think those two teams are, as you said, I mean, coaches have to juggle their pack, don't they, throughout the year. And that's, I think, one of the things that keeps it tight. I think towards this kind of business end, we might see those two like actually like properly stretched clear of kind of Béziers, well. Montauban. Yeah, I think, or at least in theory, I think they should do. I think they should be kind of leaving. Certainly Montauban and Soyo-Angoulême, as much as we love them, should be in theory leaving them for dust at this end of the season. But who knows?
Brive also made a late charge last year. They were one of the form teams coming into that. They snuck into sixth, didn't they? And they very nearly beat. I can't.
Who came third last year? Béziers?
Yes. I don't know. Yeah. It was Brive Béziers, and they very nearly beat them. Or they did beat. I can't remember. Anyway, I think speaking of Béziers, I think they will be the team that will be the unlucky one, finishing in seventh, which is bold given that they're currently fourth. But they have away games at Dax, Provence, and Montauban. So Dax were pretty good earlier in the season, but they should hopefully have got their act together a bit again after the break. But to go away to Provence, I can't see them winning that. Montauban away, that could well be a winner takes all sort of thing. They also have their last game is at home to Brive, and who knows what Brive will be playing for, what side they'll send at that point. Soyo-Angoulême and Colomiers have pretty similar fixtures, and I think therefore Soyo-Angoulême being a few points ahead of Colomiers, hopefully, touch wood, going to be all right. Montauban have they're the key team here. They, within this last seven, they go away to Brive. No, they have to go away to Soyo-Angoulême, but they have Béziers, Colomiers, and Brive all at home. So they have a tough set of fixtures, but they're going to play the key part in deciding that top seven. It's going to be, it's going to come down to the last game. Like it's going to come down to that Béziers Brive game.
Yeah, 100%, and probably at the bottom end of the table as well, right? You can't see anyone getting kind of cut adrift as a Nice Mark 2 unless something unusual happens.
Valence Romans have an absolutely horrible set of fixtures coming up. They have Provence at home, Brive away, Grenoble at home, and they finish with Soyo-Angoulême at home, so that's not nice. I think Mont-de-Marsan v Agen is on the last game of the season, and that is going to... Wow. That's the two most unpredictable sides in the league who could both be needing a win to not be 15th. That could be absolute carnage. I think Aurillac have probably got the better set of fixtures. Nevers have Grenoble away for the last game of the season, so they need to kind of get done before the last game of the season, you'd think.
Well, or Grenoble rest everyone. I don't
think it will matter. I think their squad is at home. They've not lost all season. They're basically getting a bonus point every game. They've got such a deep squad. They're going to be way too good for Nevers. But I think it's between Agen, Mont-de-Marsan, and Valence Romans for me.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Agen. I'm going to pin my colours on us. Agen.
I just can't see it. I think it'll be Valence, unfortunately. Who knows? Just to round off the kind of lower league chat, as it were, we mentioned Narbonne a moment ago as they played in the National Access last year. But shout out our favourite league, our boys Périgueux beat them away on Saturday, which now means that 13-12, which now means that in that 5th, 6th, 7th place, you've got 3 teams on 71 points. So that is mirroring quite nicely Pro Day there, actually.
Yeah.
With Chambéry still top of the pile, which is very cool. Alrighty, shall we come back in a sec, wrap up with some Petit-Fours and leave it there?
Yes.
Rob, Petit-Fours Digestifs. Sound like you're indulging in quite a few in the literal sense on Saturday.
Ignore for anyone. I feel like when we go to France, we should give recommendations of what not to do and where not to go. And if anyone offers you a Poire Williams or Liqueur Williams in Lyon, just decline. It was a pear liqueur that I think was 40%, but I think has seen about as much pears as your kind of white ace has seen apples. I think it's, it was petrol. It was disgusting. And it really, really put a twist on our afternoon on Saturday afternoon. But yeah.
Live and learn. Very good.
All I wanted was a chartreuse or a genepi. I would have been happy with that.
just a nice light number. Something that caught both our attention was the top 14's plugging of a series of vintage shirts from yesteryear across the clubs, which has made for some excellent viewing, it must be said.
Which you are an owner of one.
I am an owner of one of the Claremont one, bizarrely, which I picked up off, I think, Depop during the pandemic. Someone was selling it as a Puma football shirt. I saw that. Sadly, it is size quadruple XL, or I think it's actually an XL, but it's XL when XLs were worn by actual French props in the late 90s.
The Christophe Urios fit.
Yeah. Relaxed Urios, I believe, is the unfortunately. But it is a beauty. There's some real nice ones in there, aren't
the Poe one. I'm looking at it now. That really cool. Poe. I think Ilta Daffith on Blue Sky pointed out that he's got matching green. I don't know that you probably know the technical term because you've got a pair of those
wearing
shoes.
The Wallabies.
Yeah, the suede green shoes to match the and with the white chinos to match the green and white on top is really bloody cool. Yeah, Pony to up their current kit game. They've got some beauties in the past. That cast one as well. There's that. I mean, the best kits of all time, a lot of them are those kind of early noughties Canterbury era. Like you think of that Australia one in the World Cup final, that sort of
simple,
that kind of era of shirt, and those cast ones around that time, sponsored by Canterbury, are glorious.
Yeah, really nice, like basic, just good thick collar. The other two there are actually quite a few that are really good in there, but the Toulon Perpignan and the Perpignan one you couldn't really see in the group photo. They did put out a kind of an on its own image is fantastic. Yeah, some quality, no doubt.
The van was beautiful as well.
It was quite cool. Though Van's I feel like really rogue. It's like a proper clip art job. Yeah, quite cool.
I feel like Van are like Exeter Chiefs, where like because they've kind of come up from nothing in relatively recent times, like there's probably some kits from like the early noughties that are a normal club shirt and therefore are just absolute prized items. Yeah. Well, talking of a lot of that is vintage stuff, and I saw an interesting post about the history of the Toulouse badge. Do you want to hear this?
Go on.
You're a man with a history degree.
Correct.
So the S and the T originate from, which is obviously Stade Toulousain, but there's a mosaic from the 18th century in the Basilique Saint-Sernin in Toulouse that has that logo, that S and T. The letters are actually dedicated to St. Thomas Aquinas, or I assume that's Thomas Aquinas, San Thomas d'Aquin, a very religious Italian. The red and black comes from the capital and the Capitole and the administration of Toulouse between the 12th and 18th century, who wore black and red robes. So there we go, the origin of the Rouge et Noir. And the original logo is the S and the T, and looks very different. It's a kind of light red and black colouring. There you go, Rich, you can see that. It looks completely different. But yeah, there you go, a little history lesson. Did not know that the Rouge et Noir came from the administrative leadership in the 12th century. That's quite niche.
Yeah, that is cool. Good bit of digging.
It was on Oval News on Instagram, and I think they're going to try and do a few series of them. I do know that the Po one is pretty simple. It's just the mountain that's big in the Pyrenees that you can see from Po. That's basically it. But yeah, there you go. Well, talking of Toulouse as well, did you see? We now know why Dorian Aldeghiri is in the France squad. Have you seen the videos of him dancing after the Six Nations victory? There's like a forward roll. There's some air guitar. It looks like a drunk dad at a wedding that's the first bloke to get onto the dance floor at a wedding. Thinks he's a legend by being the first one out there. But fair play, Dorian Aldeghiri. Fair play, Dorian Aldeghiri. Like, yeah, keep him in the squad. Best prop of all time.
Yeah, that was quite some viewing. Bits that kept me interested. So Toulon, you can I saw on their socials the other day, you can book a cookery experience.
Wow.
With a local restaurant and joined by 4 Toulon players. So that's something that you can do down in.
Do you know
the
Toulon players, or is it just?
Well, no, but last year one of them was Serran, so it's not just some academy lads. So that was quite cool.
Who would, if you were signing up to that, who would you want to join you for your cookery lesson?
Marloni.
Yeah, Jean-Baptiste Gross.
Jean-Baptiste Gross.
Imagine him on a grill. I bet he knows his way around a Côte de Boeuf.
100%. Or who else would it be? Maybe one of the English guys. Sinclair always seems like quite good value.
Yeah, ribeye, David Ribbons.
Yeah, we'll go with that. That's probably a decent.
Not your Suffolk boy, Lewis Ludlam.
Could be Ribbons or Ludlam, depending on which one's available. We'll go with
Facundo Issa. I'd want Facundo Issa.
Good on the grill.
Good on the grill. I'd also want Paolo Garbisi, because he kind of looks like an Italian chef, like a kind of sous chef in a big London restaurant. He's kind of got that kind of air about him, I think.
He strikes me as the sort of guy who would...
He's very cultured as well. He speaks about 4 languages.
Yeah, everyone else would bring like some burgers and sausages, maybe a steak, and Garbisi would roll up with like some niche bit of seafood or something. Yeah, just one up everyone. So 2 things that, just to round off, kept me interested in the week. One, actually barbecue related, albeit with a little bit of a somber twist. So saw that Biarritz, I think it was actually a fortnight ago, a load of guys who played in a Biarritz team that I think won the Brunus maybe 2006, something.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
That sort of era, 2005, 2006. They did a kind of 20-year anniversary trip to Argentina, which looked looked amazing fun. Like, I think they actually may have played a bit, and a lot of like grilling and wines, and it just looked absolutely fantastic. But the reason behind it was they were there in memory of one of their ex-players. Forgive me if I get the it's Federico Arambaru, who, I wasn't aware of this, was murdered in Paris in 2022, was shot by a gangster or something following a dispute in a bar. So genuinely kind of incredibly sad backstory, but very cool that they'd kind of gone out in his honor to do that, which was quite some viewing. And in slightly happier times, also involving Biarritz, also involving a 20-year anniversary, Munster are going there for a pre-season game, 22nd of August, to mark the 20th anniversary of their Heineken Cup final back in the day. So little summer sojourn for any Munster fans down to Biarritz could be a wicked occasion, that. And nice way of, I guess, reliving a bit of a glory era through some pre-season friendlies. So I think that's us done for another week, Rob. You can get in touch with us, and please do get in touch with us. And thank you to David, who emailed in at rosbifrugby@gmail.com, who has quite the rugby travelling CV, having not missed one Brunus final, I think, in 20 years at one point. Loved hearing that email.
Top 14 ground as well.
I think so. So David, loved your email. Thank you for getting in touch. And
all of the current top 14 and Pro D2 clubs, at least once. That is quite impressive. 30 different clubs. That is really impressive.
Work. Very good indeed. But you can follow us, Rob, on...
You can follow us on all social media, basically, at Rosbif Rugby on Instagram, TikTok, X, Blue Sky, YouTube. X, who Ubebe recently left. They've officially finished communicating, but we will be on all of those for the foreseeable. And please do follow us this weekend for hopefully as much van content as possible, because that is quite a little pilgrimage for us that we're really excited for. And hopefully we will be able to give you a bit of insight into a day out in van, because one for the bucket list for us and many others, I imagine. But we hopefully will inspire a trip for you.
We'll see you on the other side. I've been Richard, that's been Rob. We've been the Rosbif Rugby podcast. Until next time, au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.